Hey, Weather Warriors. In this video, we're going to be examining the potential for a winter storm brewing Christmas week here, as well as a fast and furious Arctic outbreak in parts of the country. I'm going to be talking about whether or not you'll get hit by a storm or the outbreak, as well as some educational tidbits on this episode of Weather Decoded TV. Alright guys, you're probably wondering what in the world is this swirling mass coming into the United States? We'll talk about that in a second, but to really understand what's going on here Christmas week, we are going to go out to around Sunday here. And this is the upper level height anomaly. So you're kind of looking at the jet stream, the ridges and troughs in the atmosphere, where you see the red are warm air masses and the blues are cold air masses. Now, look at the United States. Besides a few cool areas here on Sunday, it's pretty warm. You got a ridge in the east and a ridge in the west. Your storm systems will typically form where there's divergence, like that right there. So Western Canada getting a nice storm right in between that temperature gradient. So what's it going to take for this cold air up here to come down into the United States? Because that is what's going to be needed for an Arctic outbreak or a storm during Christmas week. Well, you need some ridging to punch up and to squeeze that air downward, and some ridging this way too. So watch as we head towards Christmas week here. Okay, so we're on the 22nd now. Look what's building out there in the Gulf of Alaska. A nice ridge right there. It's punching down cold air. Now, finally, the entire fall and early winter has been warm across much of the country. Finally, a ridge punches in to the Gulf of Alaska and really vaults that cold air into the western United States. So there could be a cross-country storm system. Now, the question is, will it be a major storm, and who will get the storm system? We'll be talking about that in a second. As we head towards the 24th, Christmas Eve now, look at that now. We got a ridge in the west and a ridge in the east. This cold air is getting squeezed down into the United States. But because this ridge is moving in so fast, and this one will kind of move out really quickly, this is going to be a rapid fire Arctic outbreak. It's not going to be a very long one, but it could be very short, but very intense, like a bee sting. Now, I'm not saying these Arctic outbreaks are good. Some people like the cold air, some people don't. But listen, it's going to be a quick Arctic outbreak. And there it comes, the 25th, and moves into the eastern United States. And you can see that ridge now moving into the country. So it's kind of pushing that Arctic outbreak out into the sea. And eventually we could get more of a zonal pattern. So we're going to take a look at this now. This is the area we want to focus on, is this potential winter storm. We're going to go over that in a second, but we're going to track this play by play as it tracks across the country. And to do that, we're going to go over to the precipitation and pressure analysis and zoom into the United States. Now, this is a site called Pivotal Weather. You guys can follow along right with me. You can get the old marker tool out and mark on the maps, whatever you want. We're going to fast forward out now to about when the winter storm approaches the United States, which will be about the 21st or 22nd. Here it is out here. So that wave we were looking at, that trough, that cold pool, has created a nice little low pressure system. It is moving on to the western U.S. There's been some remarkable consistency for at least from Washington to Oregon to the fine landscapes of Idaho into Montana and even North Dakota, that you're going to see a little snow event. We're getting closer to this event as well. There looks to be some pretty good consistency that there'll be a decent little snow event Christmas week. The biggest question will be as the storm moves into the Midwest and East Coast. We'll examine that a little more here in a second. But you can see a nice powerful wave. This 540 line right here, you want to keep an eye on that. That is your rain to snow line, your thickness line in the atmosphere. And you can see out ahead of that storm, you can think of your thickness lines as kind of average virtual temperatures. You can see they're rising, okay? So right out ahead of that low pressure system, that's warm air, and then cold air on the backside you can see wrapping in. Now you can see there's some snow in the upper elevations in the mountains, pretty heavy, pretty intense. As we head towards the 22nd at 1 a.m., it moves into Washington, Idaho, and Montana. Now, these details are going to change. Specific amounts and specific timings going to change. What we're focusing on this video is the signal. Okay, so there's a pretty confident signal between multiple model runs in different models that there'll be a decent storm coming on shore around Christmas Eve. Details will work themselves out. We'll definitely be making more video updates if this appears to be a major event. Now, As we head towards around the 23rd here now, this moves into the rest of the United States into southern Canada. This is confined to the northern plains and parts of the eastern half of the Rockies to the lee side. This is 23rd. This is the 23rd at 1 a.m. You can see that high to the west and the east. When you get that pressure gradient, there's high pressure to the west and the east. That's a pressure gradient across the country, and that low has a nice pressure gradient to work with. You'll get winds to kind of ride up out of the south ahead of it and winds behind it. Now look at this air mass. Look how it gets wrapped around behind it like that S shape. That S shape is a signature look for a developing storm system, and it's something we'll have to watch. You can see a decent polar air mass behind here, and here's another wave up here. Where these little gradients are is where you kind of get your frontal systems, and a nice little pool of light snow. This has been pretty consistent. I don't think it's going to be a particularly major event for the northern plains, potentially the western U.S. Might die out a little bit in the northern plains, but watch as this storm gets to the east. You'll notice something's missing. Usually with a classic winter storm, you'll have a tail of precip along a cold front, and then it'll wrap around. That moisture will wrap around and get fed behind the system. There's really no tail of precip coming out north of that into that storm, and that's why I think the northern plains with this system won't get a major blizzard. They might get some light snow, but it won't be a major blizzard. There's a little bit of a moisture issue. There's not quite the moisture with that, so it'll be more like what you'll get with a typical clipper, which is 3 to 6 inches, 2 to 4 inches. Again, amounts are going to change, but let's watch what happens here as we head towards the 24th. Look what happens. That front lights up, goes boom from Canada all the way down to the coast. Could be some severe thunderstorms, which we'll look at here in a second for parts of the southeast. And the issue with this is it's so spread out. You got your low pressure system way up into Canada, and your best snowstorms will typically occur to the north and to the northwest and west of the low pressure systems, where you get cold air to wrap in usually. The issue is the low is way up into Canada, almost getting off the coast into the ocean eventually here, and that cold front does give you precipitation. But look where that 540 line is, that rain to snow line. It's along and mostly behind the cold front. So this is prefrontal. Well, the front's right here, but the cold air is a little bit delayed. So most of this at the moment appears to be rain and maybe even some thunderstorms in the south. You can get some post-frontal snow like you see here, but typically with these types of events where they have these crashing Arctic air masses and elongated storm systems, you typically don't get major snowstorms for the central and eastern United States, but you can get 3 to 6 inches, 2 to 4 inch types amounts. So we'll have to watch that. But at the moment, it looks like mostly a rainmaker. But we will go over that in a second because this very well could change. And I'm going to show you a couple more maps that could indicate some things here. So there's what I'm talking about. As we head towards the 24th, a little later in the day, you can see that snow, that 540 line, starts to seep in a little bit more. That air mass catches up. Now, that cold air mass will dry things out pretty quick, so it won't be overly long duration. But you can see a decent snow band all the way from Canada all the way down to Tennessee. So we'll have to watch that. And then we got this very decent temperature gradient going all the way down to the Gulf. Look at that 540 line into Texas. Could be very cold down into the south. And that will set up the possibility for some thunderstorms. As we head towards Christmas Eve around 7 p.m., there's your high pressure system. We're sitting right over, that's the core of the cold air mass, sitting right over the Dakotas into Minnesota and in the Midwest. Look at that Arctic air mass. That 540 line almost down to the Gulf Coast. But you can see that front that I was talking about, the cold front sitting out over here, and that's where all the precip is, but it's behind, or it's ahead of that 540 line, so that is a little bit delayed unless you're up into parts of Canada and the northeastern United States. And eventually by Christmas Day, that's exiting the United States. Now, we're still pretty far out, so the details could change. It could be a day sooner, day later, but the signal has been very consistent of a cross-country storm system with the potential for winter storm in the northwestern United States, a moderate little event in the northern United States, and potentially a major event for Canada And the big question mark would be the Northeast and the Ohio Valley. If we can get some more wrapping in the system rather than just a cold front, that could change things up. And we'll examine that right now. So this is the GFS. Then we'll look at the Euro and stuff. And like I said, there's that front right here, but the 540 line is a little bit behind it. So that's a major event up there for Canada. Blizzard conditions, tight isobars, windy conditions. But look at the European computer model. So there is still some inconsistencies in terms of the strength and that southern extent that I was talking about. That's where the big inconsistencies are. Very consistent about the energy, the main energy being within this area, the northern tier of the United States into southern Canada. The big question will be, can we get enough mid-level lift to support a decent little setup here in the southeastern and even midwestern United States? So the Euro and the GFS a little bit different. The Euro's a little weaker, but it's still showing the storm system. And this is what I'm talking about. So we'll go back to the storm system. Here's the low up in Canada, and you got all this precip down in the United States. But look at the core of the 500 millibar temperatures. This is a mighty core of cold air, which we'll go over. We'll go over the temperatures here in a second. But like I said, that front is out ahead of it, that surface front. You can see where that precipitation is. There's height rises and very warm temperatures out ahead of it, that warm air mass. So the cold, but you can see where you had that snow, that was up in Canada, and it was overlapping this cold upper air mass. So that's going to be the question. If this thing starts to dig into the United States and wraps a little bit more where this is, if this moves a little bit south, that would put things really in a big question mark, and we really could have a big storm. But right now it looks like to be mostly into Canada. And then you look at the European computer model, and it's not quite as impressive. You see how the GFS, it's wrapping a little bit. You see those the wrapping right there in the height lines. Well, the European computer model is a little bit more flat and linear with this thing, and more of just a cold front. So something that, in my experience with these cold air, Arctic air outbreaks, you typically get more of a flat look like the Euro. So I'm not expecting a huge winter storm with that cold front. But here's your low pressure system. This is the 24th around the same time. You can see that 32-degree line behind the main area of precip. But look at this area down here. Very warm temperatures and a nice little front. There could be some thunderstorms from Texas out into maybe as far south as South Carolina. And then as we look at the Euro, it's pretty similar, but not quite as aggressive with that cold front. It's got more of a flat look to it. And then you go out to the vorticity in the atmosphere, measuring the upper levels. And this is what I'm talking about. This is the 24th at 1 a.m. This is the GFS. It's actually pretty impressive. There's your upper level lift. This is kind of measuring the spin and lift in the atmosphere. And when you get this really high levels of vorticity to cross these height lines like that, that's where you're going to cause some stretching in the upper levels, which causes lift at the surface, supports a decent low pressure system. And you want to see, if you want a strong storm, you want to see that extend south. And what you really want to see, if you want to see a strong storm system, is see this closed off look be a little bit further south. It's a little bit too far north right now. And, if you're looking for a winter storm in the Northeast or the southern U.S., your main closed off piece of negatively tilted energy eventually is going to be way up into Canada. So you're dealing with more of just a cold front Arctic air mass type of event. And you can see that the European computer model is even more just stretched out with that. It's more widespread, but it's not quite as impressive looking. I would say there's more advection occurring with the GFS, creating more lift than maybe the Euro here. Now we're looking at the PWAT, which is the precipitable water anomalies, and this is kind of measuring the moisture in the atmosphere. And the area we really want to look at is the southeastern United States, and you can see that they're much above average in terms of moisture down there. Yeah, north, but with PWAT, it's a lot better forecasting for thunderstorms and heavy rainfall. So places like South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Oregon, very high level PWATs anomalies, and that could indicate some very heavy rain and some thunderstorms. Here's your temperature anomalies for that time period. We're talking 20 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit below normal in the northern U.S., into parts of Canada. Very warm out ahead of it during this time period. Again, this is the 24th around 6 a.m., 20 to 30 degrees above average. So it's going to be a very quick, very fast Arctic blast and a very fast temperature swing. So you're going to go from 50s, maybe 60s, down to single digits, maybe even sub-zero. Another thing we'll look at is the severe weather, and then we'll look at temperatures and wrap it up here. This is the GFS, and this is for the 23rd at 1 p.m. You can see a decent little batch of dew points moving into Texas, Louisiana, and typically 50s, 60s is kind of what you want for thunderstorms and severe weather. The potential is there. Again, the details will change the severe weather. Severe weather is very finicky, but I would place the areas under southeast Texas, anywhere all the way out to South Carolina, under watch for the potential for at least a severe storm or two. At the moment, it's, again, the details, the specific locations are going to change. But with this type of event, you typically do get a very narrow corridor of some isolated severe weather of all hazards possible. This looks more like with this configuration, more of a wind hail threat. But you can see that dew point, get a little plume of moisture coming out of the Gulf. And this is the instability. Typically with severe weather, you're going to want about 500, 750 plus. And you get close to that out here in Louisiana for this 23rd 1 p.m. time frame. And then obviously the front moves to the east. That would put Mississippi and Alabama under the gun later in the evening. But you get a little tail all the way up to parts of Arkansas and Missouri. Again, something like that is going to for sure change. Very finicky, small little tail. But the more likely area would be near and along the Gulf for the significant moisture and warmer temperatures are going to be. And obviously you got that powerful jet stream feeding wind shear, and you can see that stretching in the atmosphere. That's divergence. That's going to create that lift, and that's going to make the cold front light up like popcorn. And that's going to feed these storm systems. So you'll get storms to develop. That air will keep the cold rain away from the updraft, so they keep on building. So that's something we're going to have to watch. When we have this type of configuration, we always have to watch it. Again, details, specifics will change. Right now, it looks like a very marginal severe weather risk, but there is at least one there. Now, one more thing we'll look at is the temperatures. So we're going to just turn this on to the temperatures now, and we'll take a look at the GFS for this one, and then the Euro. But as we head towards the 24th at 18Z, which is around 1 p.m., we'll go out to how about the 25th at around 6 a.m. You can see temperatures by the GFS are forecasted to be all the way to about freezing, all the way down to the Gulf Coast, really across the entire country here, except the far southwestern United States, like Oregon and the valleys of California. But you can see Florida as well. But pretty much the rest of the country could be below freezing. So this could be a very fast and widespread Arctic outbreak, particularly for the west or the east half of the United States. You can see sub-zero in this purple. So much of East Canada dealing with 0 to negative 20 below, and then the northern United States potentially negative 10 degrees or so, with areas in between in the single digits. As we head towards the morning of the 26th, you can see this cold air mass moves to the east. It's already starting to warm up in the plains, already in the 30s for the lows on the night of Christmas into the 26th. But you can see that cold air, sub-zero temperatures, maybe even in the northeastern United States, single digits all the way down to almost Tennessee, particularly up in the upper elevations. Very, very cold air mass in 20s and 30s all the way down to Florida. Now, again, you guys probably won't get snow because your precipitation will be so far out ahead of it, but it will be cold enough down there into Florida. So that is a very, very cold type of look, and you can see these temperature anomalies. We'll look at that real quick. The temperature anomalies, as this main thing's moving through, or as we head towards the 25th, 26th here, it's a good little batch of 20 to 30 degrees below average. And then as you see, as we head towards like the 27th and beyond, it really quickly warms up across the country. Not terribly warm, but pretty widespread. So we'll play that loop again. You go from the 23rd and then the 26th. So it's really just about a 2 to 3 day event. Very, very cold weather with followed by warm conditions behind it and warm conditions out ahead of it. So kind of a unique little setup here, but it's Christmas, it's winter, things like this will happen. Again, stay tuned. We'll be making more updates, detailed updates of the storm. If it appears this will be a major event. So share those with a friend. If you like these videos, hit that subscribe button and hit those bell notifications so that you get these videos right as they come out hot off the press. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you soon.